Agriculture on the move.
Agricole en mouvement.
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 Hello and welcome to another program, Agriculture on the Move. I am Philip Sidney, your host. Today we are discussing Pesticide Awareness Week, and that was organized by the Plant Development Unit in the Department of Agriculture. With me today is Titus Alexander, who is the Plant Protection Officer and is also the Registrar of Pesticides in that said department. Welcome to the program, Cletus.
Thank you, sir.
I know you're not new to television these days. You're a star boy.
Not really. Well, just a correction. The Pesticide Awareness Week, it was organized by the Pesticides and Toxic Chemicals Control Board.
Okay, that's in St. Lucia.
Yeah, in St. Lucia.
Oh, great. Okay, we'll talk about that board and its mandate and everything. So, but why was this week organized and to recognize as Awareness Week?
Well, let me start first with the theme for this year. This year we're celebrating pesticides. This week, sorry, is Pesticide Awareness Week, and the theme is PPE for COVID-19. PPE for pesticides use, health and safety for all.
Wow, that's a mouthful.
Yeah, this theme is appropriate.
Yes, it is.
Because since the advent of COVID-19, what we are seeing is that persons now, you see persons wearing face shields, persons wearing masks, even gloves. Now, if you have to, well, for COVID-19, the thing is, very soon somebody may develop a vaccine. And if you get affected by COVID-19, just give you your antibiotics and you get well. Now, the problem with pesticides is this. Some of the pesticides that we are using out there, they are more dangerous than COVID-19. They can kill you.
If you use them wrong.
Yes, they can kill you. They can affect your organs. They can affect your skin. They can make you impotent. But yet still, persons out there, they don't wear protective equipment when using pesticides. And I can guarantee you, some of us who are doing this, in some form or another, we're going to pay for it. Because as I said, pesticides, the toxic, they can kill you, and they can cause irreversible damage on the body.
Definitely, because, okay, I think that's the focus of the discussion today, looking at PPE for the use of pesticides. And of course, at the end of the day, we're talking about our health and safety for all. Let's go back a bit. Years ago, I mean, you would walk down the road, you'll see a farmer or one of his workers spraying beet for the control of weeds or for spraying his vegetables. I have seen guys bareback, no shoes on, okay, nothing at all, and they are spraying. Because I need you to emphasize why is it PPE is important for the use of chemicals by the farmers and his farm hands.
Well, not necessarily farmers alone. Those persons who use pesticides in the household also need to put the PPE. But PPE is very important because, as I said, you have pesticides that are highly hazardous. They can cause lots of harm. Now, in order to protect yourself and probably your children, even your neighbors from pesticide after indiscriminate pesticide use, it's very important that you use PPE. Because that is what that is going to protect you from some of the effects of the pesticide.
Right. So I want you to start and tell us exactly, dissect the PPE for me from head to toe.
Well, it depends on what you are applying. It's very important that you, when applying pesticides, that you at least have a hat on, because pesticides can be absorbed through the skin. It's very useful to have gloves, long sleeve shirt, and boots. The boots is very important because the sole of your feet tend to be an area that is very sensitive, and it's one of the primary areas where pesticides can be absorbed.
Mean the sole of your
Your feet, yeah.
wow.
Because sometimes you have your boots, the boots get soaked with the pesticide that you're using, and the water is in the boot. And as I said, it's a very sensible area, so pesticides can get in there very quickly.
Okay.
For
Then what's about
you
your
should also have
facial, yeah.
your respirator, because as I said, for COVID-19, persons have the mask. But it's also important that you use your respirator, because through inhaling the pesticide, it can get into your body. So PPE is very important for us
And
now.
of course your goggles too.
Yeah, to protect the eyes.
Yeah. And okay, how do you put on your gloves? Because that's another issue a lot of people don't know. All right, if you have short gloves or you have long gloves, how do you put on those gloves?
Well, that's the last that you're going to put. After you have put in all your boots, your long sleeve shirt, the respirator, the hat on, that's the last item that you're going to put on. That is your gloves. Because with your gloves can contaminate everything.
Correct.
As I said, that's the last thing I'm advocating.
Okay. What in the case of your pants, a lot of people have a problem. They tend to put their pants inside of the boots. Is that the correct way to do it?
It's not the correct way to do it. It's better to put it outside of the boots. In terms of pesticide drift, if you have a situation where your pants get soaked, the boots is going to protect you from somebody drift from the clothing.
Okay. Now, in terms of the pesticides themselves, in terms of storage on the farm, or in fact, where do you believe that pesticides should be stored? At the farmer's home or on the farm? And how is it stored on the farm?
Pesticides should not be stored at home, because you want to limit access, especially for children. Pesticides should be on the lock and key. Pesticides should not be in when you drive around the place, we see pesticides. Some of the pesticides are in supermarkets. That should never happen in St. Lucia. Because you may send a lay person or somebody who cannot read to buy pesticide for you, and groceries, and that person may come with a bottle of pesticide. Unknowingly, maybe you may not have electricity at your home, the person put whatever item you would send the person to buy, the person put it on the table. You never know, and indirectly you may consume whatever the person brings. So it's very important that pesticides should not be stored in supermarkets. Pesticides should not be stored at home.
Okay.
So pesticides should be, for me, pesticides should be in an area where access is limited. So for me, it should be on the farm, on the lock and key. Okay.
Now, how is it supposed to be stored in that storeroom? I'm sure there are ways. Do you only store it on top, or in terms of the flooring? How do you store it?
Well, pesticides should always be stored on pallets. In case, the area gets flooded, it can be protected on pallets. The area should be well ventilated. The area should not be accessible to everyone. The area should be on the lock and key. I'll just stress this.
There was a situation once where, and that is very important, and people should know that. A farmer took gramoxone, and he actually got it and put it in a Coke bottle. And sadly, his child went and actually took the Coke bottle and drank that said gramoxone, because the color on Coke and gramoxone, of course, almost the same color, and it is in a Coca-Cola bottle. The child is aware of Coca-Cola use. And so could you expound and actually tell people the risks that are involved in not storing chemicals, none other than branded bottles?
Okay. First of all, pesticides should not be repackaged. Pesticides should be sold in their original containers. As you said, in a Coke bottle, everybody Coke, whatever pesticide it was, probably it's the same color of a soft drink and so on. So pesticides can kill you, as I said, and it's very important that the way you store the chemicals are Very important. So pesticide should never be stored in bottles where you drink and so on.
Okay.
That's a no-no.
Okay. The other thing too, I want to keep it very basic. You have farmers who have livestock and they also have they produce vegetables. Where would you advise that the farmer store his feed as opposed to chemicals?
Again, it should be stored separately, because the last thing to happen is that the pesticide contaminate the feed for the animal. So again, pesticide should be stored away from animal feed.
Okay. The other thing is, it has happened before where I remember a farmer calling me and asking me, he had a problem with his cabbage. They were dying, and when I got there, they were burnt. And when I asked him a few questions, I realized he had one sprayer. And that sprayer was used, it was a weedicide sprayer, and he would wash it, and then he would use it to actually spray his vegetables. And of course, you realize what happened. Yeah. What are your advice for farmers in that regard?
Well, for farmers, it's better to have 2 sprayers. One for the herbicides and one for the pesticides that you're going to use on the crops. Take for example, you use gramoxone in a sprayer, and you decide, well, you're going to apply some of the crop protection chemical or the other crop protection chemicals, and you did not wash the sprayer properly. Just imagine what is going to happen. Something like gramoxone is going to burn the crop. What will happen? That is loss of productivity. The yields that you're expecting to get, because the plant is already affected, will not perform for you. So it's a situation where the farmers have to think twice. If you definitely cannot have 2 sprayers on the farm,
it's expensive. Yes.
Yeah, you should make sure that that sprayer is washed thoroughly before you use any other chemical.
Okay. The question of unused chemicals in terms of dispose of containers, how is that done?
Well, for pesticide containers, the best way to dispose of pesticide containers is that you're supposed to do what is called triple rinsing. When you have emptied the pesticide container, you're supposed to triple rinse the wash. By that I mean wash it 3 times, and then you dispose the content in the sprayer. Now, after you dispose the content in the sprayer, you're supposed to puncture the container so that persons will not use the container for drinking, for water, and so on. So it's very important that you triple rinse. That is what the pesticide board and all the boards of the Caribbean, that is what we advocate in, triple rinsing of pesticides.
Okay, now what happens to the containers then?
Well, by right, the container is supposed to be sent to the landfill. But the problem with agriculture is that, now, let me tell you something. A pesticide container whereby the cover is not properly washed can be considered as a pesticide, because on the pesticide, on the covering, you may have the pesticide, and that is a technically it is pesticide.
That's right. Yes.
So it is very important the way we get rid of those chemicals. And now again, some of the normal persons collecting waste out there, they will not go into the farming areas to collect farm waste. So what you have happening is that most of the containers are stored on field. So that is a practice that we really have to deal with in the future. Because as I said, if you just store the containers out in the field, it's not washed, it is a pesticide. Because it can cause harm the same way.
That's right. Okay, now if you have, say, if you rinse out them, where do you throw that waste?
Well, as I said, when you triple rinse, you're supposed to put it back in the sprayer that you're going to use.
And then, but if you're not going to be using it anymore, what do you do? I mean, is there any way?
Well,
should it be washed in the river, ravine?
Or no. Pesticide.
That's what I need to know.
You should not dispose of pesticide in the waterways, because there you have all your aquatic organisms that can also be affected by organisms.
Okay, so how do you dispose of it?
Well, after you've triple rinsed, you're supposed to put the container in an area, especially a litter bin. If you have a litter bin on the farm, you're supposed to put the pesticide in the litter bin. You should not have the pesticide scattered all around the field.
Because I know at some point there's something like a sediment pits where they put a charcoal, and is that
well, charcoal, it can be used, especially for post-harvest chemicals. It has been used for a very long time in St. Lucia, especially for banana farmers who process the bananas. That is how
that's how they dispose of it. But
But
the most important thing there is the safe disposal of your chemical that is not going to be used immediately.
yes, sure.
Yeah, so that's what, because I think that is crucial, because a lot of people out there don't understand these things. They take these things for granted. And the other thing too, I believe they need to have, after you have sprayed, you need to bathe.
Most definitely.
And then you need to wash your clothing.
In some instances, you should not wash the clothing. You should just get rid of it. Based on the level of contamination. Yeah, you should just get rid
So
of
what do you bury it, or you?
No. As I said, you send it to the landfill.
Landfill.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go to the landfill. Yeah. Okay. Right. Anyway, when we do for our first break, but when we come back, I need you to discuss the pesticide board, the mandate. Okay.
All right, then.
You're watching Agriculture on the Move. Stay tuned. We'll be back soon.
What a beautiful morning in Popsville. Time to check the crops. Uh-oh, the insects are back. Farmer Ricky plans to double his dosage to get rid of these pests once and for all. Oh no! No more insecticide. Well, off to the store we go. Hey, it's good old Joe.
Good morning, Joe. I'd like to get 4 bottles of Compound V, please, and double dosing to fight back the insects. Compound V, you said? It doesn't sound familiar. Let me see what you have.
Ricky, where did you get this product? It doesn't have proper label information and could be filled with highly hazardous chemicals called persistent organic pollutants. You should really get one that's POPs free, which is safer and approved for pest control. Ricky, it's time we talked about the dangers of misusing highly toxic pesticides. Some pesticides contain highly hazardous ingredients that can harm you and your loved ones if handled incorrectly. So when we improperly store pesticides, it can affect our health in the long and short term. To be safe, make sure to remember these following tips to avoid unnecessary chemical exposure. It's important to always read your label fully before using any treatment on your crops. To avoid dangerous contact with pesticides, including airborne insecticides, make sure to wear appropriate personal protective equipment. Apply the recommended chemical dosage and use far away from human contact and from active winds. To avoid cross-contamination, make sure to follow these simple steps to dispose of pesticide containers. And no matter what you do, don't throw it in any old waste bin. Always make sure to triple rinse, puncture, and store separately for proper disposal.
And for an even safer approach to pesticide use, consider switching to organic farming and other integrated pest management processes.
For more information on how to dispose of hazardous pesticides, contact your local waste management agency or visit stopthepops.com for more details. Sometimes danger lurks where you least expect it. The more you know, the healthier you can grow.
Welcome back to the program. With me is Cletus Alexander, and we're here to discuss the safe use of chemicals, and of course the danger of chemicals too if they're not used safely, and of course PPE in the use of pesticides. Cletus, I know there is a pesticide board. Tell us about that board. What's that board's mandate?
It's the Pesticides and Toxic Chemicals Control Board. The Pesticides and Toxic Chemicals Control Board is the regulator of pesticides in St. Lucia.
Okay.
We do pesticide registration, issuing of import permits and licensings for pesticides.
Okay. How is that done? In other words, if I want to import a chemical, I apply to the board?
If you want to register a pesticide, you have to fill in an application form to the board. First of all, you must have all the necessary information on whatever pesticides that you're planning to register. And then a risk assessment will be done. The pesticide will be reviewed for whatever risk that is going to pose to the to human health, animal health, and the environment.
All right.
And at a board meeting, with all members, you consider whether the pesticide should be approved or not.
Okay. They also have the mandate to deregister a pesticide, right?
Yes, we
Okay,
supposed to.
how is that done?
Well, based on information, because normally when a pesticide is registered, you register the pesticide based on information available at the time. But as you know, research is continuous. Sometimes the pesticide that you register today come next week. Some researcher may come with some new information about the pesticide. And it's the duty of the pesticide board to withdraw a pesticide any time that it is necessary to. So delisting of pesticides is done based on information. We don't believe in most of the times in just an article. We believe in peer review papers where researchers have said certain things after using a pesticide, certain things can happen. That is the basis for withdrawal of a pesticide.
Okay. There are various pesticide boards within the various islands. Do you all interact? Do you all have any collaboration? The reason why I'm asking this, because I noticed that maybe there is a particular chemical that could be deregistered in one island and it is still being used in another island.
Yes, there is what is called the CGPC, which is the grouping of pesticide boards of the Caribbean. That is where all the pesticide registrars, that is where the forum that we meet and we discuss pesticides. Yes, it is a duty of a board to register or not to register a chemical. You may find a chemical is registered in St. Lucia but not in St. Vincent or Guyana.
But why is that?
Well, based on the intended use of the chemical. You may take, for example, you have a number of substances now that some of the first world countries are banning. And I think we should follow suit.
But are we?
Yes, we are, because presently what is happening is that we are reviewing our pesticide list.
Okay.
It has been sent to the FAO, where we're supposed to get some assistance in highlighting some of the highly hazardous pesticides that we have on the pesticide list.
All right.
And then, yes, FAO will highlight it for you, but it will be up to the pesticide board now to decide whether we're going to phase out or whether we're going to ban those chemicals automatically. But as I said, everything we do is based on information available.
Yeah, because I know Roundup is banned, in the States, right? Okay, I'm not sure. Correct me.
Well, Roundup. You're talking about glyphosate?
Yes.
Well, we have come under the pump for glyphosate in St. Lucia. But what you have to understand is this. Glyphosate, that active ingredient, is found in over 1,000 products around the world.
Right.
Now, the problem with glyphosate is this. Yes, some countries have banned glyphosate, but not for agriculture use. The only country that banned glyphosate for agriculture use, it was reinstated. That was Sri Lanka. Now, hence the reason why we're preaching proper use of pesticides, or PPE, sorry. A lot of persons are saying, well, glyphosate is carcinogenic. But again, the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency in America, has said this is not true. Okay. The National Health Institute in America also said this is not true. So that is where we, earlier on, remember I told you, we believe in peer review paper. We will not deregister based on a newspaper article.
Okay.
So that is very important. So coming back to the glyphosate issue, glyphosate, for us in St. Lucia, we did release a press statement saying that glyphosate should not be used in public areas. That is the issue.
Well,
but you can use it for agriculture using the right protective equipment to minimize the risks of the product.
Okay. When a chemical is deregistered, say there is quite a lot of it in store, how do you get rid of those chemicals?
Well, normally we get assistance from the FAO for obsolete stocks, where we send some of the products, we collect the products and we send it to Europe for the activation of the active ingredient.
Okay.
But in St. Lucia, we don't have the facility to do that. That is why the CGPC is very important. We collaborate on those projects in the Caribbean. Because St. Lucia alone will not have enough obsolete stock to send to Europe for destruction. So when you collect in all CGPC members, you send it to
There's a very important question I need to ask, because it is being asked by the consumers of vegetables, and they are very concerned about the chemical residue that are in, say, leafy vegetables, like cabbage and lettuce and these other vegetables and others too. There's a question mark as far as the amount of residue that's in it. How can that be traced? And what advice do you have for the farmers out there?
First of all, the advice I have for farmers is this. When you buy pesticide, on the pesticide label, there you will see all the crops that the pesticide is supposed to be used on.
Right.
But for us here, some of our farmers, they cannot read. What they do, the pesticide that is not supposed to be used in lettuce, you find there's a situation where farmers are using it. Now, for every pesticide that you use, there is what is called the maximum residual limit. That is if a test is carried out and you are within this tolerable range, there isn't a problem.
All right.
But if you go beyond that, there is a problem, because there are standards set by the WHO, some of the European Union institutions, even in America there are some institutions where they are very strict on this. But in St. Lucia, we probably what can happen is that we have a new lab now. Probably these are some of the areas that the Ministry of Agriculture can get into.
I think yes, there'll be some traceability in that regard. And one of the things too I know that is very important is the farmer registration program, in that if you purchase from that farmer, you know where the crop comes from.
And not only where, if you train the farmer, if you train the farmer properly about the use of pesticide, and you teach the farmer the correct method of applying the pesticide, how to read. Well, the farmer will not be able to read, as I said, but if you show the farmer the correct method, the harvesting, you teach the farmer the harvesting intervals and all the recommended practices that are supposed to be put in place, good agricultural practices, yes, the risk of food contamination can be minimized. Like this.
Do the registrar of corporate of chemicals, in terms of the labels and other, apart from English, you have other languages that the farmer may not be able to read. How do you deal with this?
First of all, it is illegal for any institution, any agri-shop to bring a product in a foreign label. That is a no-no for us in St. Lucia. I know some farmers, some persons are complaining about this, but it's an issue that has been dealt with by the board. As I said, that is definitely it's illegal.
Right.
If you cannot pass through custom with a pesticide that is in a foreign language, if one of the labels are not in English, definitely it will be confiscated at customs.
Okay.
But as you know, persons smuggle chemicals into the country and so on.
Cause problems.
Yeah.
As you're about to end, comrade, any final words you have to say to the people out there, both consumers and of course the users of chemicals?
Well, what I'll say about pesticide is this. A scientist putting pesticides in a bottle is not a problem. The problem is with the indiscriminate use of the pesticide.
Correct.
If they tell you use 1 tablespoon per gallon, you cannot use 3 tablespoons per gallon. If they tell you use protective clothing, you have to use the protective clothing. If they tell you 5 days before harvesting, you cannot harvest the product 1 day after you apply the product. So pesticide can compromise our food security. As you know, right now, we have pesticides at our homes. We have pesticides in the food that we eat. We have pesticides contaminating our water sources. We have pesticide in our waterways. So it's very important that we manage pesticides in St. Lucia.
And I think moving forward, we need to get away from pesticides and use safe organic chemicals as we move on.
No,
but we'll come back to that at the point
organic
because we're
products
about to end.
there are issues with organic products. That is why presently the FAO just sent the guidelines for registration of organic products, especially some of the where you have products containing live microorganisms.
All
so
right, good. Okay,
it's a danger for us.
leaders, thank you very much for being here. I know there's so much to be discussed. I just want you to ensure that you continue the good work you're doing and then to educate the St. Lucians, the farmers, how to use chemicals. Thank you again.
Thank you very much for having me.
You've been watching Agriculture on the Move. I thank you for viewing. And remember, people, use, even at your home, use the aerosol safely, and don't stay in it and spray. It's not a wise thing to do, to inhale it. It'll affect you over time. It'll affect your organs. Remember, agriculture is our business. Eat fresh, St. Lucia's best. I'm Philip Sidney. Goodbye.
Agriculture on the move.
Agricole en mouvement.
Agriculture on the move.
Agricole en mouvement.
Agriculture on the move.
Agricole en mouvement.
Agriculture on the move.
Agricole en mouvement.